talking about the quarter one final review. We are reviewing for a final test. We're going to take the quarterfinal on Thursday. And today in class, we just talked over the retake directions. Basically, in here, you'll have a chance to sign if you decide you want to make your quarterfinal count as a retake for any of these tests. So I encourage kids to look up their grades on their 4 tests. I just handed the 4th one back today, test 4, quadratics A. And then what we're going to do in class today is go over test 1 and test 2. So I'm going to help get you ready for test 1 and test 2. So here's test 1, functions review worksheet. Would everybody please get in here and then answer question number 1A and turn it my way so I can tell that you're in the right spot. And don't keep working for a few minutes because some people are going to be so slow it'll be really annoying. So everybody get it there as fast as you can, but you can keep working. So because you're assigned all of these. So keep working on it, and then in a minute I'll have people turn my way. You're assigned all of them on test 1, and you're going to be assigned all of them on test 2. That's tonight's homework. So I'm going to pause for a second while you get going on that. Be prepared to show me in like a minute. Okay, I know now that everybody's on track. One person with a little math error in there, but let's do D as in donkey right here, because this kind is obviously stepped up quite a bit. The most common mistake is people think they should deal with this -5 right away and do something with it. You don't. What you do is you start with G of 1. Everybody figure out G of 1 and then figure out F of -2. Think of them as separate little problems. I got to figure out G of 1 first and F of -2 second. G of 1, here's the G function. I put in a 1. G of 1 will be 1 squared minus 2. 1 minus 2 is -1. So I just figured out G of 1. It's -1. G of 1 would be -1. So now it's a -1 right there. Now can you see that it's -5 times -1? Okay. And then this F of 2, I got to figure out what it is, and then whatever it is, I'm going to make it the opposite of that because of the negative in front. So let's do F of -2. I'll do that in blue over here. F of -2, I'm putting a -2 in. I have 2 times -2 plus 4. And that's going to be -4 plus 4, which is going to be 0. So this part right here is 0. There's a 0 in there. So -0 really doesn't do anything. So I have -5 times the -1. That's this part right here. Minus 0. And then you finish it up by just saying it's 5 minus 0, which would be 5. Raise your hand if you had 5 before I did. Okay, awesome. All right, how about this kind? X when G of X is 1. Do you remember me asking you over and over again, did they tell me X or did they tell me Y? Because that's what's really key here. So on this problem, did they tell me X or did they tell me Y? They told me the Y. If they had told me X, they'd have put it right there. But they left an X there, so they did not tell me X. They told me Y. If I'm in the G function, and they've told me Y, Y is like G of X, right? So they told me that G of X is 1, so I'm going to put a 1 right there. 1 equals X squared minus 2. Then all you got to do is solve that. So I'm going to subtract 3 from, or subtract 2, no, add 2 to both sides, and then take the square root, and I'll let you be able to finish it from there. But the point is, they gave you the Y, and so you put it in for Y, and you just solve that little equation. All right. I'm going to go kind of fast here so we can keep moving through this worksheet. Please stay with me. Go to number 2, and let's do part of number 2. The first thing I want you to do is F of 2. Everybody do it, and show me what you think it is. Right, right, not right. Right, right, not right. Right, 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 right. Right, 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 right. Can't read it. Oh, yeah, I got it now. Can you use a darker color, please? Right, right. Zoom in a little more. I can't see it. Right, right. I couldn't see it. One more time. Good, that's right. Okay, so what you should have done on that f of 2 is to use the f function, use the 2, and you see where they overlap, and it's right there, and so the answer is 0. Now let's go to a harder kind, significantly harder kind. Let's go to x when g of x is 0. Here's the important part. Did they tell you x? No, they didn't tell you x. We know it's the g of x function, but they did not tell us the x. They told us g of x was 0, so that means this is the spot. But then what does that leave us to answer? We got to tell them is what was the x value. That's this column over here. Obviously, the one that got double circled here must be the important one right there. So it goes with that. So the x must be -2. All right. I'll clear off my ink and keep on moving. Everybody, I know you know how to do those now, which is great, but you need to like do one of each kind with me, so stay with me. I'm now on to number 3. And I got this funky looking graph. And each time I'd say to yourself, did they tell me x or did they tell me y? It's a great way to start this. So on number 3, did they tell me x or did they tell me y? X. They told me x was 3. So I go over to x is 3, and it's right here, and I follow that up to the graph, which is right there, and I say, what point is that? This is really important. That point is 3, 1. Now think about it. They already told me the 3, so they must have wanted the other answer, so the answer is 1. Okay, let's do the same kind of deal on number 6. Good question. All I have to do is say that. 1. Okay, number 6, find x when. Well, obviously they didn't tell me x because they're saying to find x. So they must have told me y. Y is -2. I find where y is -2 right here. I follow it across. I get that point right there, which is -3, -2. And hopefully you'll be able to answer the question with that much help. All right. The last part on this worksheet is kind of important because we haven't done it in so long you might have forgot. Don't answer the questions yet. Just look up here. Is this increasing or decreasing? That's increasing. Is it increasing at an increasing, a decreasing, or constant? Increasing. So that's increasing at an increasing. And how do I know? Because I check and see. Starts out slow, ends fast. How? Because it's steeper. Steeper means faster. So this part's faster. This part's slow. That means it's increasing because it's going from slow to fast. All right. So decreasing at a decreasing rate, for instance. Here's decreasing at a constant rate. Here's decreasing at a increasing rate. That's decreasing at an increasing. Okay, because it's increasing because it starts out slow and it ends up as very steep and very fast. Okay, and then that's decreasing at an increasing rate right there. No, it's decreasing at an increasing because it starts slow, ends fast. That's why it's increasing rate. But it's decreasing because it goes from up to down. All right, good enough on that. And constant, just the word constant means that it's a flat line like this. Okay, it's not going up or down, and it's flat and straight. This is constantly increasing, but just constant is a line that I'm trying to draw perfectly parallel to the x-axis flat line. Yes? All right. Well, here's decreasing going from here to here. Now you tell me, there's 3 ways I can do it. You know straight line decreasing at a what? That's decreasing at constant. So then there's only 2 other choices, this way or that way. And you should ask yourself, this one starts slow, ends fast. This one starts fast, ends slow. Got it from there? Okay, good. All right, now let's go to test 2. Everybody put that one away. You're going to come back to it because that's one of your homework worksheets. Test 2 is the other one that gets you ready for that part of the final. Test 2 is on translations and reflections. Basically, that's moving them around and flipping them. The first part is refreshingly easy. All you have to do is, like, say, an equation for this. So if I type x squared, and I reflect it and translate it, I got to go, okay, starts with y equals x squared, and I go like this, and then I leave room around it to do stuff. Reflected over the x-axis. That's this way. That's an up-down thing. So up-down things are on the outside. So I have to move this over a little bit and say y equals negative. That's my reflection. And then down 5, that would be minus 5 on the outside. Remember the whole deal about high-vo? The stuff on the inside here is horizontal on the inside, and the stuff on the outside here is vertical on the outside. Same on the outside there. Horizontal on the inside, vertical on the outside. So if you're doing something on the outside, you know you're doing vertical stuff, which means up, down, which means over the x-axis. All right. I think that'll get you through the first part of that one. Well, let's move down to problem 2. This is just describe it. So you'd say things like, okay, how about this? Do 2b right now. I'll double check you and see if you do it right. And tell me it in the right order. And if you say the word flip, I would say it's wrong because you have to use the professional word, which is reflection. All right, so let me make sure it's over that axis. It's on the inside, and so. All right, I'm going to take a second to just check a bunch of kids' work. All right, so that one's reflect over the y and up 7. Does the reflection have to happen first? Yes, on 2 levels. Number 1, I suggested you start on the inside on these, but even more importantly, your multiplies, which is like multiply by -1, have to come before your add subtracts. Okay, let's move down. Number 3, a lot of times gives people trouble because of this notation, and it looks really confusing, especially when you get to like D as in dog here. Everybody look at 3D as in dog. Okay, all it is here's a function. Just saying the function's x squared. And these are like the directions on what to do to the function. And all you do is write an equation for it. So you start by writing y equals, leave some room in front and behind it, x squared. There. I've started by writing the function with room around it. Now I got to do stuff to it. What did it tell me to do? That. Plus 3 on the inside. Well, plus 3. And then this. -4. If I do this, it's wrong because that changed it to a -4 times that function. So I don't do that. And what I do is I put the -4 at the end here because that's a down 4. It's not being multiplied by -4. So if it's down 4, I go at the end there. And that's how you do that kind. Okay, let's move on to domain and range. Picture's worth 1,000 words. You've heard that before, haven't you? And it's really true in math, too. It gives you so much if you can have the picture. So I want everybody to sketch me this parabola that's been shifted and stuff. Just a quick sketch, you know, like, does it look like that, or what does it look like? Make a quick sketch of the parabola in question. And then try to answer domain, which is left to right, and range, which is technically down to up. Make the sketch first. You should have had a parabola shifted left and down. So it should have looked something like that. Raise your hand if you had that right. Okay. Mr. T, I didn't see you looking up. Domain is from left to right. How far left will this thing go? Infinity. How far right? Infinity. So negative infinity, comma, infinity. You remember how to write those? You put parentheses around them. Okay, now how about the range? Remember, it's from down to up, Mr. V. How could you be right but wrong by saying that? I can't tell if you knew exactly. Yes? Yeah, should we have a bracket on the -6? I know we shouldn't on the infinity, because you never have brackets on those because you can't get to infinity. What do you say? Go with bracket or not? Yes, bracket on the -6. Okay. So if you make a little sketch for each of these, it makes it so much easier to be able to say how low it goes, how high it goes. I seriously have trouble doing these in my head if I just do them in my head and don't have a sketch. Okay. Moving down to this kind. Look at number 7. It starts with a little squiggle shape. We don't know what it is. Do you notice, do you remember this? If you don't know what the function is, you include an F in your answer for the equation of it. So many people got that wrong. On the test, we're going to have that as an option for ABC, you know. I'm sure that if you're given that option, they're going to see if you know whether or not there's an F in it. And if it's squiggly shape you don't know, you should have an F in your answer. Okay, next thing is, just to be nice, we made all of these have the parent function on the graph already. So your job is now to take this parent function right here and to do that to it. So I'm supposed to do a negative on the outside, which would make it move from where it is to, is it an up-down or a left-right kind of thing? Up-down. So that changes to up-down, flip, up-down. There we go. That's an up-down flip. Horizontal or vertical, it's on the outside. So it's high horizontal on the inside, low vertical on outside. That's a vertical reflection. Okay. I think you get the idea. Some of these have multiple things you have to do. Like this one. You have to make it flip, and you have to move it 1 to the right, and you have to move it up 2. And they get a little tricky. And I would say this is one of the more commonly marked wrong questions. So do these very carefully. Do them in the right order, too. Remember how order matters? And in math, it's a big deal. And this has to be done the very first. So you better do a left-right flip first, and then it's not hard to move it that way and that way. Okay. So we're almost done with test 2, and when we are, we're done with all of the advice I need to give you. So let's go to problem 10. We're going to have a bunch of time to work in just a minute here, so get with me to number 10. So Ryan, if I wanted the equation to graph, they did not tell me the equation. They told me like clues. Can you tell me what equations should be? Y equals, see if we can do it. Perfect. Nice job. Now, if we had iPads for the tests, you could make the picture and then use scissors to cut it out and move it and stuff. You won't have that. So if I were you, I would definitely remember that graphing the XY chart is your best friend. XY. Because if you have to graph the parent thing, and then you have to flip it, and then you have to move it to the left, and then you have to move it down, kids are very not good at being super accurate 5 times. So if I were you, I would just start with an XY chart right off the bat. And I'd say, what are some good points to stick in here? Well, things that are helpful in this parentheses, like maybe -1, because -1 plus 1 would make it 0. So if I put in -1, I'm going to get a 0 here, and that means all of this becomes 0. 0 minus 5 is -5. -1, -5. Now I want you to think for just a second here about how this equation, the blue one, has got the vertex in it. Remember, we just learned that. That's vertex form. Get the vertex is -1, -5. So there it is. And I know that's the vertex. And do you get that this is a parabola that's been flipped? Then that's all you really need to know. Because I can do the rest of my parabola saying, I know it's an upside down parabola, over 2 down 4, over 2 down 4. There we go. There's my parabola. It's upside down. I knew where the vertex was, and it's easy to graph. Remember, the vertex makes it easy for you to graph things. So once I got this in vertex form, it should be easy. Could I have checked it with a few more points on my XY chart? Yes. If you really care about your answers, take 2 seconds and check them. Like I've put in a 1 here. That means a 1 goes in here. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 minus 5 is negative 9. 1 comma negative 9 better be on my graph. And look, there it is. I know I did it right. So that XY chart is really powerful. I wanted to remind you about that. Okay. That covers everything that we have to know, except maybe some of these basic shapes. Parabola. U or V shape. Sorry, I said parabola, I didn't mean parabola. This thing right here, the absolute value, is that a U or a V shape? That's a V shape. Good. That is not a, I don't even know what to call it, but I know it looks like this, and I call it a ramp shape. Okay? Don't forget that the square root is the one that is kind of a ramp shape. But remember, you can do this with just an XY chart. Even if you went brain dead and forgot what a square root was, and you knew how to make an XY chart, you could make sure all your graphs are right, as long as you're good at that part. Okay. And remember, there's no video for tomorrow because I'm going to be gone. But the next day, on Wednesday, I will record a video that teaches you about test 3 and a little bit of 4. But 4 is the one we just took, so it should be pretty fresh in your mind. So I'm going to focus mostly on questions on that. Okay, that's all for the video for today and tomorrow.